got a visitor in the shop, Barry Mantell, and you're from up in Iowa, right?
Yes, the Des Moines area.
Des Moines area, okay. Well, I've played music up in Iowa before, but it's been years and years and years, and even, I could just say decades and decades ago, actually, is what it's been. He brought me a guitar to look at, and he says it has a buzz. And, you know, I played it, and I went, I don't hear a buzz. But, you know, the first thing I said, and he'll tell you that it's true, the moment I hit the strings, I said, you know, this thing sounds a bit muted. It don't quite sound like it's ringing out right. There's something wrong, you know. And I suspected it's a saddle issue on that. And then he starts telling me more about the buzz and on the E string. So I start hitting it, and I don't know if you're going to be able to pick up this subtle. It's really subtle. But listen to this, noting this. Very subtle. I doubt the camera can pick that up. There's just the tiniest bit of a fuzz, kind of almost a rattle versus a fret buzz. It's not a fret buzz. It's more of just a kind of an undertone humming, buzzing, something. And what it is the saddle is got a peak in the middle, and there's actually a little bit of a groove in this saddle, and so the string is stopping in the middle, but then it's continuing on in that groove, and it's buzzing in that groove, and that's causing that little extra buzz. It's a perfect example of that. I just wish I could show it to you better. But if you can see it up close, you can certainly see there's a little tiny groove in that saddle, and that string is in there, and it's just vibrating back and forth inside that groove. So it's kind of a unique one, but I've heard it before, and that's why when I heard it here, I went, yeah, it's not buzzing on the frets, but I thought it's doing something. I don't know what it's doing yet, but then sure enough, that's what it is. Just thought I'd point that out to you.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna do some work on this guitar, and we may show you some more about it later. Well, my friends, Barry brought another guitar, also a D28 here, and I've already started cutting the strings off of it before I thought about filming this. On this one, we're just going to do a very light setup and work on the saddle. It doesn't need a lot, so I probably won't show any more than what you're seeing right here. Maybe I'll let you hear it after we get it set up, though. I didn't really think Barry's Martin needed all that much, but I've done a fret re-leveling now and a recrowning. He's got a bone saddle. I was thinking this might be micarta, but it is bone, and I've worked the bone back so that the B won't be sharp anymore, and I've worked the E and the D strings back, so they shouldn't be as sharp anymore either. So anyway, there's no point in changing the bone out to antler. It really won't make that much difference, but it should make a difference on the intonation the way I've adjusted the saddle. So I think we're good there. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this 800 paper and go down the fingerboard like this real quick. His frets were much more worn than I thought they would have been. And he must be a really good player because they wore all the way down. I mean, you could tell he had used it. And I had to file quite a bit off, and part of the reason was there was quite an underbow in this neck, so I filed a little more on the ends, on both ends, to try to reduce that underbow, since this does not have an adjustable truss rod. And I also shortened the frets. They were all sticking out on the ends quite a bit. So I'm going to sand these ends round too. That'll help them now that I filed them. So there was a lot more work on it than I thought it needed. But on the other hand, it's quick work. It doesn't take a lot of time. And it'll be just about like factory new when we get it back to him, and hopefully better than factory setup. Well, I thought I'd do a little extra on this guitar. I have taken it over and buffed out the finish. There was a lot of old stuff. You know, like you could see an arm mark where the arm had laid across here. You could see closed fabric marks through here where I guess like on a sweaty leg with, you know, wearing blue jeans or something, you could see marks in the finish. So anyway, I buffed all that out. Now I'm just going to give it a quick coat of Renaissance wax, and I'll probably only do the top and the back because of the time constraints and everything. But that's where you'll get your best payoff on this Renaissance wax anyway. It helps the sound. It crisps up the finish and makes it nice and clean and crisp and clear. So, you know, it's a good deal to do to your instrument. Protects the finish and all that. You just don't want to let it set on, and you want to keep your rag turning in a bunch of different directions as you're buffing it off. You just want to keep it moving and buffing for, you know, a few minutes there until you feel like you got it all off. It should show up pretty shiny, I think. Yeah, that's looking real good. It's good to rub the wax in too, just, you know, to really rub it into the surface like that. And then just buff it back off. And now I think I'll do the back. And I think I will do the leg here where it sits on the leg, because that finish was, you know, it was really much more noticeable than you might think. And I figure if I wax this whole area here, and that's probably all I'm going to do is just the affected area here, and buff that off. Then that'll protect that for the future. Perhaps you can even see a teeny bit of the dullness that was in there from the, but I got most of it buffed out. You probably can't see it very well now. Looks pretty darn good to me, but that ought to protect that leg area. And now I'm going to do the back. Mostly doing the top and the back because I really believe that it does help the sound of the instrument. I really do. I say it crisps up the finish and makes that finish just pop, you know, and makes it a little harder and gives that instrument a really good tone. That's what I believe. And on some instruments, the difference is striking. It doesn't change on all instruments the same way. Paste wax is a lot more difficult to put on and take off, but the benefits are far greater, and the chances for messing up things like your pick guard and all that kind of stuff where the chemicals react to that are far less, because you can keep it off your pick guard and all that. Now that's beautiful right there. I hope he appreciates that. That's quite a bit of work, rubbing that on and off. Well, my friends, it took me about an hour and 10 minutes to pretty much give this thing a full meal deal setup. So let me tell you what all I did. I leveled all the frets, recrowned all the frets. I also filed more on the ends of the frets to try to get rid of some of the underbow, since this doesn't have an adjustable truss rod. And I think I was successful. It looks pretty good. You can still see a little relief there, but it's not nearly as bad as it was, or as much as it was. I worked this saddle so that I could intonate the two bass strings primarily, and the B string some. And that, I think, has helped some. I completely buffed out the whole finish and waxed the top and the back and this side here where the leg wear had shown. So we got all that done. Put the new strings on it, and now I'm just going to check the intonation, because I haven't actually checked it since I filed it. It can't be worse. It's got to be somewhat better, so let's just see if it looks like it's better. I will tell you, before I check it here, it was a full 10 cents off on the bass E, and it was even more on the A string, on the So the E and the A strings were the worst. So let me tune up the E first. Okay, so the tuner is set there. Let me get to the E string. That's pretty close. It's about 4 or 5 cents sharp now, so we improved it by at least half. That's still a little sharp on that high E. We might be able to do something with that. Let me check the B here. Still a few cents sharp, but that's about as much as we can do on that one. Let me check the A, because that's the other one that was really bad. This was probably the worst. About 4 cents sharp now compared to a full 10 and really 10 plus on the A. So it's much better than it was. It's not perfect, but the only way to get it perfect would be to probably redo the whole thing from scratch. But this is about as close as it needs to be. So I hope Barry will like his setup on his Martin guitar. My friends, I've got the Martin guitar up in pretty good shape, so Barry's going to pick you a tune on it.
A little tune called Don't Think Twice.
Well, that was pretty amazing. Oh my goodness.
That guitar sounds pretty good, Jerry. Thanks for all your good work on it.
Oh, good. Are you okay with it then?
Yes, I am. I am very, very happy with it. You polished it up real nice too.
Yeah, I took out all the fingernail grooves and all the. There was a lot of fretwear. I could tell just from the fretwear he was a picker. There was no doubt in my mind because usually I see fretwear in maybe like the first 3 or 4 frets, but this had fretwear all the way up here, and I knew just from that he could pick. And so he's probably going to sit in with us tonight at Dickey's, and that'll be great. Him and Don will have a real field day because Don picks in that style also, and so those two will probably hyper themselves into a frenzy. Okay, well, that was really good picking, so thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm on to Barry's second instrument, and I've already taken cut the strings off there, and we've got a full meal deal set up to do on this one also, and I double checked with Barry just to make sure that he's okay. I didn't want to push this on him. We're going to get rid of this under saddle pickup, and he is going to go to a different pickup setup, so he's probably going to go to LR bags or a comparable one where that it attaches under here rather than having the saddle sit on it, and I'm really glad he's going to do that because that's going to make this thing sound so much better acoustically. You can see there's the saddle that's in there, and obviously that's a composite. And it's also the one that is causing the buzz here on the top. So we're going to get rid of all of that, and we're going to go with antler and get it set up correctly. So let me see if we can get this out of here. I'll have to, I'm going to do a little bit of that off camera. I'm going to take this end off of here and get all that stuff loosened up and see how we have to take it out of there, whether or not it's one that we can just disconnect or whether it's one we have to desolder. I'm not sure. So we'll figure all that out here in a minute. Well, I got the wire traced down. This wire here is the one that goes to the pickup. And it's connected in 2 points right here. And it is a solder situation. I mean, I guess I could just clip the wires, and maybe that would be a good idea, because then you would know which wire went where, because we've got a ground and a covered wire, and if I clip them, then you would know which one goes where. And you could actually reconnect them back here. Might even be easier. Obviously, there'll be people out there that will disagree with me, but I really think the simplest way for most people to reconnect this would be just to clip this and then reconnect it right here versus doing the soldering and unsoldering and all that, because a lot of people can't do that. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to cut it off. It'll save time and it'll make it easy, and they can reconnect it like that. Bingo, you're done. Now I'll take the rest of it out, and we'll proceed after we get the rest of it out. All right, I've looked down this and I see that the fretboard is pretty darn flat, so I'm not going to worry about the truss rod or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and get the frets leveled and recrowned and polished up, and we'll move on from there. He has quite a bit of finger groove in here, and there's still some groove that I can see. But we've gotten rid of about, 90% of it. And there's a pretty good hump right here that I could see visually, but I'm also trying to clean that up so in case he comes up through here that it doesn't buzz in this area. You can tell he uses the whole fretboard. There's no doubt about that, the way he picks. That's pretty good. I can barely see a little bit of fret wear in a place or two, and that's about when you want to stop. You don't want to take it all out, because then you don't know how far down below that you are. And if you just stop right about where it cleans it up, then you're taking off the minimal amount and giving a complete fresh fret dressing to it. And that's where we're going to stop right there. So I'll move on to step 2. I know I covered this recently in a video, but I just want to make it clear that I don't file straight across like this. I'm filing on the edge and on the edge and on the edge on the edge. I'm twisting it back and forth because I don't want to take it off the top. I want to round off those flat corners is what I really want to do. Because of quite a bit of filing I had to do, it's going to take a little longer to round all of these off than normal, but that's okay. It's just part of the job. My goal is to make this thing play like a dream when I'm done, and he's a good picker, so I want to make sure that it plays as well as possible, and I have a feeling he'll realize that it's never played this well before. So that's my goal. I want to hear him say something like that.
Lately the signs upon the face match the signs on the road I take. Slow down, don't turn left, dead end ahead. The caution light is lit as we head for the last exit. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind. Would the road be rough or paved? Can your love for me be saved?
I'm going to file the ends of each of the frets a little bit because they're a little bit out a little bit, and this rounding them off will help that a little bit.
Highway or gravel road, either way it's the same old load. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
Okay, so we're looking good here. I'd say the frets are pretty good shape. So I'm just going to take the 800 now, and I'm going to buff them this way first. I may go ahead and do more, but I'm going to start with that and see where I'm at. So I've got the 800, and I'm going to work up and down the frets like this. Because he plays so much, there's always, fret wear or fretboard wear, and so I'm going to clean that all up too. So that's why I don't mind doing the sanding this way. And in fact, I prefer to do the sanding this way for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's faster. Number two, it rounds the frets off even better. You'd be surprised how this really rounds the frets off. And it's just so much quicker for the customer. It saves them a lot of money, and it looks really good. And yet I get the complaint that, on the YouTube viewers, that this is going to put grooves in the frets. Trust me, it's 800 sandpaper. There's no grooves. And 600 leaves no grooves either. In fact, you can go all the way down to about 320 or 400 and it'll leave no grooves. But when you get 800, it just really absolutely zero grooves at all. They're almost like a mirror. They're not a mirror, but they're getting close. And my point is that when you do this, then it's very easy to make them a mirror in the next step, and I may do that. In fact, I think I will, because he's one of those finesse pickers, and I think he would appreciate the fact to have these buffed out like a mirror. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to take a little bit of semi-chrome here on this cloth and rub these out, and it doesn't take very much or very long to make them look like a mirror, especially after you've sanded them with the 800. It's very quick. I'm not going to show you that whole process, but see how shiny that first fret is compared to the others, and look how quick that happened. It looks just like a mirror. So I'm going to do the rest of the frets, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I'm going to level all in between all the frets now, and there's a little bit of fingernail groove going on this, not too terribly bad, but enough that we should just go ahead and clean it up and level it all out.
Each day on the interstate, as I'm pulling my load of freight, I think of you with each passing sign I see. The road ahead looks rough, and the travel will sure be tough, but I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind. Would the road be rough or paved? Would your new love for me be saved? Highway, gravel road, either way it's the same old load. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
Okay, I've buffed this all out on the buffer, and it looks real nice. Now we're going to apply the Renaissance wax to it, and like I said, I think this crisps up the finish and makes them sound the best. But if nothing else, even if it doesn't do that, which I think it does, but even if it doesn't do that, it's just good protection for the finish. And but I do hear a difference on some instruments, a significant difference after you paste wax them. It's clearly a benefit. It just depends on the instrument, on how dramatic it is. The thing about paste wax is you want to keep your rag turning all the time, and you want to make sure you don't leave it on too long, because it's harder to get off if you leave it on very long. I always like to rub the paste wax in pretty good, and I pretty much keep it off of the pick guard and things like that, the large pieces of plastic. You can't help but get a little bit on there sometimes, but It's better than putting it over the whole piece of plastic, because chemicals can cause plastics to react and shrink and things. I really don't think Renaissance wax does that, but you never know. It's just better to be safe than sorry. That looks pretty darn good. And we'll turn it over, we'll do the back. I just usually wax the top and the back for the customers like this. That's where you get your biggest payoff in the sound. And, I'll wax anything else that, where I had to do anything to the finish. But in this case, I didn't really have to do anything else. This is a small guitar, so I'm just going to go ahead and wax the whole back at once. Yeah, I might regret that if it's hard to get it off, but I think it'll come off okay. The Renaissance wax is not as bad as some of the paste waxes for coming off. All right. In fact, I think I'm going to get a clean towel now. This one's a little bit saturated with wax. Get a completely clean towel, and that'll help it take this off a little bit better. And yeah, I kind of left it a little longer than I should have. It's a little harder to get this one off this time, but it'll come off if you just put enough elbow grease to it. That's why I say you don't want to leave paste wax on very long. And you got to get down and look at different angles of it to make sure you get all the wax off, because it's difficult to get it off, especially after it's been on there a couple of minutes. It's looking pretty good. I think we got it all. That's some real elbow grease when you're taking that stuff off, especially after it's set for a minute. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this thing set up to play. When I can, I like to use the old saddle as my guide for making the new saddle. And you can see here, there's a little bit of flex to this. Not terrible, but a little bit. So I'm going to make mine about 5/1000 thicker than this, and we'll go from there, and that way that should take up that little bit of slack there. And lengthwise, this one fits pretty good lengthwise, so I can use this pretty much as my pattern, with the exception of the thickness. Just FYI, this one measured 120 thousandths. Well, there's 121 right there, 120 there. So we call it, that's what I measured the first time, 120. So I wanted this one to be 125, and you can see it's 125. Even though I have it upside down to you can tell that that's what it is. So you can be very accurate with that thickness sander that I built. Actually, it's just a hair thick, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this to size before I thin it any more, just because it'll be easier to work with and to know whether it fits perfectly or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw this on here and then cut it out, and I'm going to cut it a little bit tall because this was sitting on a pickup, so I don't want to get this, my first attempt, too small. So I'll cut it a little bit bigger than this one, and then we'll sneak up on it as I say. Okay, so far all I've done is rough it out, and I'm mostly going for thickness at the moment. I'm just checking to see if it'll fit in there anywhere. It does not. It almost goes. So I'm going to just go take 1/1000th or so off of this and see if it'll go. Okay, I'm at 122 thousandths, 121 and a half, 123. I mean, it just depends how you measure these things. You get them pretty close. That's 123, 123, so it's pretty close. So will that actually go? 120 was what was in there. Boy, it actually goes right there. On this end it goes, but it doesn't seem to go. Almost goes there. I think I'll just go tweak this just a tiny bit more, and then it should go okay. So 121 thousandths, that should just make it nice and snug. And in fact, it won't hardly go in some places. Right there, it goes in pretty good. But anyway, we should be pretty good now. So it should be a little bit tighter than this one. This one wasn't a bad fit, you understand. It was pretty close. But we're just a little teeny bit thicker, and that'll make it go in there just even that much better. I'm going to go round this end off to fit it up tight on the base end, and then I'll cut it to length and round off this one to make it fit. Okay, now that I have that end rounded off and pushed that way as far as it'll go, then I'll look here, look under this and try to, guesstimate where I need to cut this off and round it off. And right about there, it looks like the spot. So we'll cut it off there and round it off. Okay, that fits like it grew in there. It really does. There's no play whatsoever. You could probably pick up the guitar with it. And yet, I didn't force it in there, believe it or not. It's just stuck in there. So I can pull it out by hand, see? It's just an absolute perfect fit. In fact, it's so perfect, you got to get it exactly straight up and down or it won't go in there. And like I said, it's that tight. So there you go. Now that should be bottomed out, but that's what I'm going to test next. Is I'm going to draw a line across here, and this is a fine pencil mark, by the way. And then I'll take the saddle back out, if I can get it out. There it is. And I want to look at this and see if it looks parallel, and it does. So I think we're full depth. I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. The other thing I do just to ensure full depth on all these kinds of things is I take a flat file and I just knock the corner off lightly of all of these pieces. And the reason is when you push them down in there, even if that real sharp corner can catch on wood and literally shave wood off even, and it can be sitting on that. So I'd like to dull that so it's not sharp. It shouldn't feel sharp. You don't have to 45 it exactly. You just dull it off where it doesn't catch wood on the way in. And really, you can do that even on the ends too. Sure won't hurt nothing. Okay, so that should be perfect. In fact, it's probably as good as you can do it right there. That's just absolutely fine. Now, I'm sure it is tall. I'm like already 100% sure it's tall. I'm going to put this one back in there just to kind of visually give me an eye reference on what I think. I imagine this one's a hair low. I'm just kind of getting it kind of somewhere in between there is what I'm looking for. I'll retrace this, and then that'll give me a mark to sand to. The way I retrace this, I'm going to lay it on here for video purposes, but normally I put this over on something hard and flat like my table of my bandsaw, and then I trace across this, and I can't really do that right here easily. If I did it here, maybe I can. And so then I just trace across this, and that just gives me a visual to sand my bevel to. Again, just kind of sneaking up on it. You want to try to be as careful as you can, but you can see there's my mark, and I'm going to bevel the back side of this off to that, and that'll be the leading edge or the front edge of the saddle, and that's the way you do it. You can see I left the line, and I left enough above that would accommodate for the thickness of that pickup that was in here. That way I won't get this too low on my first attempt, and I don't want to do that because then you got to start all over. So I left more than probably we need, but we'll see. I'd rather, like I said, have to do it twice than to have to make a whole new one from scratch. He had Diodario custom light strings in here, which are strings that I use quite often. So I think those are a great choice for this guitar. And we'll get these on there, and I'll show you the next step. Well, I got the strings on and up to pitch. Haven't played it at all, just tuning it. I'm already regretting the fact that I didn't do a before segment on this guitar. I really wish I had, because I know you would hear a huge difference. This is night and day different almost. I can just tell by the, it's just clear. It was just so muted sounding to me with the pickup under there and everything. So much cleaner. But I'm not ready to play it yet. I'm really wanting to work on the action and get the action down. I'm pretty sure the action's high. Yeah, we're pretty high, but it was high before. It was really high before. It was around 110, 100, so, and that's about where we're at now. So I must have guessed pretty close on my alignment there on the thickness and everything. Actually, we might be a hair higher now. I want to get this down to approximately 80. So that's 30 thousandths. I'm just going to say 30 thousandths difference. And so that means I'll need to take 60 off the base end. So I need to take 60 there. And let's see where we are here. We're not too bad on this end. In fact, I don't know that I want to take much off this end. I think I'll only take 10 thousandths off this end. So very minimal off this end. So I'm going to take 60 down to 10 in terms of taking it off the bottom. And I'll show you how I go about that. So what I do is I pull like 3 or 4 strings off of this. That way I can get this saddle out, I hope. Actually, the saddle fits so snug and tight that I might not be able to get it out easily. Yep, I can. All right, so the way I'm going to control this is I want to take off 10 off of this end and 60 off of this end. So I take my black marker and make a good little blob here. You know, just don't have to be real big, but just something that'll work. And on this end doesn't have to be as much. And then I just take my calipers and I mark it. I'll set my calipers, make sure they're zeroed out and no debris in there. They're zeroed out, and I'll go to 60 thousandths first and set it at 60, which is, it's always hard to hit the exact number, but I got it. 60 thousandths, and then all I do is just scratch across here, and that'll leave a mark right on the 60 thousandths mark there. Maybe you can see it, a very fine little tiny line, maybe you can see it. And then there's going to be almost nothing on this side. 10 thousandths is nothing. Let me just tell you, it's nothing. So I don't even know if I can mark that. I don't think I've ever tried to mark 10. Here's 13 right now, so let's just see if we can mark that. Not really. Quite honestly, I can't really mark that. Yeah, I can sort of see it. It's very minimal. But so in other words, I basically just want to touch this end and would take it off like that. And we should be pretty good to go. So let's try that. Okay, I took that off the bottom. Now again, I'm going to knock off these corners just a little bit. Just enough that they're not sharp. You don't need to do a lot. That's a good saddle right there. Blow any dust out, put it back in place, and we ought to be good to go. I'll put the strings back on it and tune it back up, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, round 2 on the action. Let's just see where we're at. I know we're a lot better. 85, you know, that's close enough, really. I was going for 80, but 85 I'll take. I was going for around 70 here, and we've got 70, so there you go. That's about as good as it gets on that. Let's check the other end up here at the, I think it was high up here also, but now that we've dropped it so much back there, it may be better. It's just a hair high. I mean, like so minimal. Now this is a little higher than it needs to be. These two we can take down a little bit, and that'll be better. So we'll do that. So we're going to start with the E string here, the high E string, and we'll take a little tension off of that. You want to do this with everything up to pitch, by the way, if you want to do a good job. And you want to mimic this angle of the peg head, and you don't want it to change. There's a lot of creep and cred down in these slots, I can tell. So before I actually do much cutting there, I just mostly clean the slot out, and I'm just going to check it again. I'm telling you for sure, you're way better off to be cautious when you're adjusting the nut. Otherwise, you'll end up making a whole new nut, and that's way more work. Yep, we're still quite high. All right, we're going to take it off again and try it again. The other thing you need to know is you always want to use a larger file than your string is. You know, there's so much misinformation out there, and I'm telling you for sure, you want your slot slightly bigger than your string. You do not want it snug and tight because it can get pinched on the sides and cause all kinds of problems. You want it to fit to the bottom of the slot. And again, I'm going to sneak up on it. I don't really want to go too far too fast. We're getting closer, but it still needs more. You never know until you know on these things how much you got to take off. That's pretty darn close, but yet it can go a little bit better. So I'm going to go a little bit better because it can. Yep. Now that holds the pick there nice and snug. And quite honestly, it could probably go another 1,000th or two lower, but you know, that's way better than where it was. Way better. The customer is going to really like this, I can tell you. This is quite high on this A also. So, I mean on the B, I'm sorry. So anyway, it's quite high on this B also. So again, we're going to clean out the creep and crud first because there's quite a bit in there. I can see it. So I'm just trying to make sure that the slot is wide enough for the string, and then basically get to the bottom there and then check it again, because you don't ever know until you know on these things. That's close enough to check it. It still could go down probably 10 thousandths, if not probably about that much anyway. Be close to that. Yep. Now it's stopping the string at least. Before it didn't even stop the string. Yeah, it's you know, it could probably go a hair more, and I think I will just take it a hair more, but I mean like almost nothing. Now the G looks pretty good already, but it can go a little bit, so we'll go with it and we'll take it down. Oh man, that was close, but we still need a little bit more. Now it's stopping the string. Again, it didn't do that before. So that's pretty good. These are real thin picks. It says 0.46 millimeter. How many thousandths? I think it's around 16, 17 thousandths. And that's pretty good for your brass strings. This one, yeah, it's so close, but you know, why not go ahead and do the little extra? So the D is just fairly high, but it is high, so we might as well knock her down while we're doing this. Not quite, almost. It can still go just a tiny bit. You know, it's that point of diminishing return. You're trying to get to that edge. The problem is you don't want to cross it. You just want to get up to it. It's like walking up to the edge of a cliff. You can get right up to the edge without hurting yourself, but boy, you take that extra step and it's all over. That's where we're at with this. That should stop the string now. Yep, perfect. Perfect. Now this one doesn't stop it either, so we're gonna go with it. We're just going all the way across. You understand, these are not real high. They're just higher than they, than they can be. We can make them just a little lower, so that's what we're doing. This one wasn't filed very well in terms of the angle. The angle was flat on this one, so I'm glad we're doing this one anyway, just because the angle wasn't very good. All right, let's see if that stops the string. Nope, doesn't stop it yet. So when it, see, like you can slide it under there and it doesn't stop it. So that's definitely too high. Almost, boy, we're right at the bleeding edge on this one. So we're just going to take a little bit more. That's pretty good. It's not stopping it as hard as these other ones did, but then again, these are a bigger string, and you got to be careful with these. This one can go down a little bit, the bass string, and then we're done. This is, it's acceptable where it's at, I'll be honest, but we can make it better, so we might as well. Let's bring it up to pitch this time and check it. It's just fuzzing it a little bit. We'll just try just the least little bit more. I think we'll call that good. Because you don't want to get the bass string too low. It's touching now, but it's not hitting it very hard, and that's okay. I'm okay with that as long as we get it down there where it should be. Okay, let me tune it up and we'll play this for you. Well, we're getting it tuned up. I was going to play it, but then I thought, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's check the intonation and see if we can improve the intonation any or if it's close enough. So I don't know if you can see the tuner there or not. I'll try to zoom it in a little bit where you can see it a little bit, maybe see the needle moving and stuff. That's pretty close. Pretty darn close. Just a teeny tiny bit sharp. Pretty darn close. Here's the B. The B's the one that's always the problem, so let's see. It's a little sharp. A little sharp too, so I think what we'll do is we'll mark this and we'll bevel the saddle here back some on these strings. So I'm marking it right here about where I want to stop the bevel, and we'll bevel the B string more and the A string about halfway, and on the E string, and then we'll go almost maybe 3/4 of the way on the B string. So that's what we're going to do. I'll take these loose and I'll show you the next step. Okay, I'm going to do an unconventional method for this, and it could end badly. I mean, I understand that. But I do it so often, and I'm so familiar with using my Dremel tool that I don't recommend you do this. I really don't. I would recommend you take the saddle out and file this back. But I think I can handle it by doing it this way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. Well, that looks pretty darn perfect to me. So I'm going to call that good enough. Just take the brush here and clean it off a little bit. Okay, we'll put the strings back on it now and check the intonation again. Okay, hopefully you can still see the needle there. Here's the B. Right on the money. Here's the E. Right on the money. So we're good. This thing's right on the money now. Intonation-wise, it's about as close as you'll get one. So let's play it. Here's what she sounds like. Really nice. No more muting. I wished I had done a before and after on this one, especially. It just, you know, hindsight's 20/20. But seriously, this thing was so muted sounding to me, the first note I heard on it. And I literally hit one chord and said to the customer, I said, wow, it sounds a little muted to me. Doesn't sound that way now. So my point of that is that now that the clarity is there for the acoustics, if you just take the LR bags or a similar pickup, put it inside and attach it to the inside, you're going to have very minimal effect on the acoustics if you do it properly. And whereas that under saddle pickup just kills the acoustic tone, in my opinion. Just don't get any much better than that, and it's just a dream to play now. It's so easy to play. If he doesn't notice a big difference in this, I'll be very disappointed.
Yes, I brought two different guitars for Jerry to work on, and he finished them all up, and boy, I couldn't be happier with the setup that he did on both of them, and even gave me a recommendation. This one had a pickup that had the electronics mounted below the saddle here, and he suggested that really was not the best for the tone when it's being played acoustically. So he talked me into getting it set up with a bags pickup system, which I'm going to be doing once I return home. But my wife Becky and I came here, and we spent 2 days at the farm here, and I got to tell you, it is a fabulous place. Jerry and his wife have this beautiful, beautiful farm here that just has extensive oak forest and backs up to the Mark Twain National Forest, so it's very secluded and very peaceful. And we did some hiking, and they took us on a tour of a lot of the areas that Jerry puts on his videos, you know, like the cave and the pond that he built and things like that. So it was enjoyable to see those up close and personal after seeing them on the videos. So anyway, I would highly recommend, if you have a guitar that needs to be set up, or a mandolin, or any kind of stringed instrument, Jerry is everything that you see on his videos. He's a straight shooter. He tells you things honestly and from his heart, and he's just an all-around good guy, and his wife Sue couldn't be lovelier as well. So I highly recommend this experience for anybody that wants to have their guitar set up and to have a little respite from the day-to-day world you might be having.
Oh, that was very kind of you. Thank you so much. How did you like the jam last night?
Oh, I enjoyed the jam. The musicianship of Jerry's group is pretty high. They all can play. They pass the microphone around and everybody does a song, and boy, some of the bluegrass stuff gets going at a pretty good pace. So we're moving it along.
Yeah, sometimes
pretty good.
Sometimes we can't keep up with ourselves.
Well, the other thing I found interesting, if you're a performing musician, sometimes you're used to doing a 45-minute set and taking a break and then doing another 45-minute set and maybe taking a 10-15-minute break. But no, we played for what, 2.5 hours straight?
2.5 hours straight without a break.
So when you're done with that, you go, whew, boy, that was a workout, And the nice thing is then you have a good night's sleep. So.
You know what? I think a lot of people don't realize that playing music is actually work. It's especially when you're on stage and you're performing. It's high stress. It really is. But we had a good time, and you really fit in well. This guy can really pick a guitar, man. He was killing it. My friends, we have another visitor in the shop. He's going to be staying at the rental retreat. I think your wife's with you too, right?
Yeah, she's reading in the car right now. She's not much of a guitar fanatic,
This is Russell, and Russell, say your last name again.
Manual.
I should be able to come up with that, but I can't. I'm horrible with names. Russell brought me a guitar to look at. It's a beautiful guitar. It's kind of I won't say it's one of a kind, but it's very few of a kind. It's a nice looking Martin. Look at that neck. And the body is what's really nice. I'll tell you what, the top on this thing, it looks like high select grain spruce. Boy, I mean, it's good stuff. It's very, very nice. You can tell by looking. The sides are curly maple, and the back is a curly maple, and it's just beautiful. Getting all that light bulb glare there, I'm trying to keep that out of it as much as possible so you can see it, but it's a beautiful guitar. So what are you bringing it to me for, Russell?
Set up.
Set up, yeah.
Set up, yeah, just to have your hands on it and see what you have to say about it.
Okay.
What you wanted to do.
Well, let me just give it a quick once over. I'll have to honestly start out kind of a little bit negative. The neck angle's a little bit up. It's not horrible, but it's a little bit up.
Right.
A little bit of a belly here. I can even see it in the light how it's kind of pulled around here a little bit. Well, you might want to look inside there, make sure there's nothing loose in there because of that little bump right there, just to make sure.
Yeah.
But
she's 30 years old. So.
That old? I would have guessed this as being relatively new, actually.
1993.
It's a beautiful guitar. The action looks a little bit high. These are just my, quick observations. It looks like it has a micarta saddle. It could probably be improved with a bone or antler saddle in terms of the overall tonal quality. But the action does look a little high, so it definitely needs some work on the action. And I'm guessing it's mostly due to this area here, slightly due to the neck angle. The bridge is rocked a little bit this way, so that makes me wonder if there's something going on inside, like maybe the bridge pad's a little weak or broke, or maybe there's a brace loose or something. So we want to look at that real good before we, jump into this. So we'll do that first. Well, my friends, we've got Russell's guitar all fixed up here. We lowered the action, put on a deer antler saddle. We fixed these pins. These pins were really hard to get out. I mean, like it took a pliers to get them out of there. They were tight. And so we, beveled the holes just a little bit. Now the pins just fit perfect. I mean, they fit really good. We got that saddle action working great. We're at roughly 80 thousandths here and roughly 70 thousandths here. And the action up here, I didn't change. It was already low, and it's very low. So, but it doesn't seem to be buzzing. We did a very light fret leveling job and everything on it. So, as far as I can tell, it's just about as good as we can do. How do you feel about it, Russell?
Oh, this is the place to come.
Oh, good.
This is the place to come. I'll repeat that, folks. If you got a guitar and you want it done right, this is the place to come.
Well, thank you very much, Russell. I appreciate that very much. This is a really cool guitar. I don't think I told you the model number of this. We said it was a pretty rare one. How many did you say were made?
15.
15, only 15. And this is a J65E. The E stands for the electronics. It's a J style rather than a jumbo style rather than a dreadnought style. But it's a really pretty guitar. It's got a really good sound. Let me see here what it got a nice sound. And that's even including the the under saddle pickup there too, and it still has that good sound there. So very nice guitar. Well, I hope you're happy.
Oh yeah, very, very much so. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for taking a look at it.